Bill Carroll, presenting 6U Media, and I'm very excited about the what I call underappreciated team wide receivers this year. I think there's a lot of receivers that either are at big schools but have gotten overlooked because they had a smaller role in the past, or they're players who either are at a smaller school or have transferred up and have not yet maybe been discovered by the rest of sort of the draft world. I'm going to start with a couple of guys who are in, old faces in new locations or new faces or however you want to put it. But I really am impressed by some of the guys that have made the up transfer, and I think they're going to be fine with the move they've made to the next level, however you want to put it. And the player that would have been the top receiving threat in all of the Ivy League is Cooper Bracate, who's now made his way to Duke. So still keeping with strong academics, but in his time, his last year, playing for the Harvard Crimson in just 10 games, he had 63 catches. So that's obviously 6.3 catches per game, and had over 1,000 yards receiving, 1,084 yards. That's 17.21 yards per reception. And obviously, he's gone up against a lot of like hedge fund managers and people who are going to work in mergers and acquisitions and things like that. But he's going to get a chance, obviously, at Duke to play against a lot of NFL prospects. He's going to hold his own and be just fine. Another player who's made a even more significant jump, going away from Emory and Henry, which is a D2 school, up to Oklahoma State. And, of course, he's just a redshirt junior, so potentially Cameron Abshire may play one more year. But I think with a big year at Oklahoma State, he could make his way into the draft. And, of course, we'll see how it works out. But big-bodied receiver, about 6'3" and a half, over 6'3", about 184 pounds or so. And last year at Emory and Henry, in 11 games, he had 51 receptions for 1,057 yards, 14 touchdowns, and that's about 96 yards per game, and just under 5 catches per game. Big time deep threat at the level where he's been. And I think that in Oklahoma State's offense, even against him being wide receiver 2, he could still have similar or close to similar numbers. And like I said, with a big year, he could still see his way into the draft. Another transfer from UTC, that's Tennessee Chattanooga, up to Iowa. Now, some may question if he's put himself in a better situation to be drafted, but Sam Phillips is one of those, pocket rocket, Stephon Smith senior types, not big, Zay Flowers, another similar body type, but powerful despite not being the biggest guy, and has good pop, good acceleration. I'm interested what his actual time speed is, but he had a really good career, prior to transferring, and I think that obviously, Iowa is a bit of a challenge, but if anybody can do it, Sam Phillips can. In his junior year at UTC, he had 10 catches for 50 yards. That's 5 per game on average, 82.3 yards per game in receptions for 823 yards. And once again, a good average, 16.46. So once again, shows he can get deep. But a lot of times he was just catching the ball and taking off with it once he had it. A player that has decided to stay the course at his school, and that's impressive to me because he had opportunities to move, is Kylon Harris from Stephen F. Austin. Now, he plays in a good conference, the Southland Conference, maybe a bit of a step below the Missouri Valley, and maybe even on par or right around the CAA level, but good player. And another smaller player, but really good acceleration. Last year in 12 games, he had 87 receptions, 1,039 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Was number 2 in the Southland Conference in receiving yards. I think he's got a big-time future. Looking to the Missouri Valley Conference, a different kind of receiver is Daniel Sobkowitz. And, once again, I know he sounds like he should be an offensive lineman, but he's a very fine wide receiver. Had 80 receptions last year for 1,108 yards, 10 touchdowns. Also was over the 100-yard mark 4 times last year, and including some big-time games in the playoffs. Was number 2 in the nation at the FCS level in receiving yards, as number 10 in the nation, number 2 in the Missouri Valley Conference. And in 36 career games, he's had a long, successful career, 179 catches, 2,418 yards, 22 touchdowns. If he has a big enough season, if he gets 1,147 yards, he actually would be the all-time leading receiver. And if he gets 10 touchdowns, would then be all-time leading touchdown maker. And one of the surprisingly impressive young players, and once again, this is not a draft prospect, but just a name to remember. Remember the name Marquise Buchanan from Rhode Island, at least for the moment at Rhode Island. I won't be shocked if he moves up. But I'm going back to Incarnate Word, where I first discovered Cam Ward, and they've got a player who transferred from Hawaii to Incarnate Word and had an immediate, showed up and showed out. In 14 games last year, 85 catches, 1,290 yards, 14 touchdowns. A super impressive player. Was another one of the finalists for the Walter Payton Award. I think that Jalen Walthall has a chance with a big enough year. And obviously, physical testing will be a huge part of this. But, if you just throw on the tape. I know sometimes you just say throw on the tape. But, he was a redshirt freshman at Hawaii. Wrong, super warm place. And then showed up a little bit, the next year, right? In his redshirt freshman year, showed up in 11 games, had 6 starts as a redshirt freshman, 333 yards and 27 catches, and had a touchdown versus New Mexico State. Then redshirt sophomore year, actually went down a little bit in playing time, but did have 6 catches versus New Mexico State. He loves picking on them. I don't think he get to play them again this year. And then the big breakout was last year, right? 3rd in receiving yards in the NCAA. That's all levels, 1,290 yards, 6 100-yard receiving games. Also had 4 games we had multiple touchdowns. Was the Dave Campbell All-Texas, one of the starters at wide receiver on the All-Texas team. Was a AFCA and Associated Press All-American at the FCS level. Was a Walter Payton Award finalist, and also was the South End Conference Player of the Year. I don't see a way that he would not be a pro prospect if he has another somewhat similar season. I think he gets drafted, and if he has a tremendous time, and he's this is a guy with a decent body type, about 181 pounds, about 6'1" and 3/8. If he runs in the mid to low 4.4s, he's drafted, I would say, 5th, 6th round. If he runs faster, could push his way towards the 4th. If he runs super fast, we're talking 4.2 something, he's probably in the 3rd round. And he can run routes, not, a complete package as a route runner, but can run routes, has good hands, and once again, terrific after the catch. Okay, a couple more sort of, pick a term, slept on, underrated, however you want to put it, players that I think have a chance to be drafted if things work out the way that they can or should for them. I really feel strongly that if you take a long, hard look, obviously Bryce Lance is a known player, right? Even though he came in sort of, just because of the name, right? Obviously, his brother had a terrific career at NDSU, and this is one of those rare situations where a FCS underclassman has a chance to be drafted in the first 3 rounds. Partially name recognition, but last year had an absolute monster year. 75 catches, 1,071 yards, 17 touchdowns, and just a menace after the catch, right? A big-bodied, powerful receiver who's still developing physically, but most importantly, when you look at him, he's going to come in at probably about 6'2" and a quarter to 6'2" and a half, somewhere in that range. Probably he played last year at about 202. He'll probably come in maybe 206 or so this year, maybe a little heavier. But beyond being Trey Lance's little brother, which of course is what everybody talks about when they talk about him, all the things you look for in that bigger body, not quite Nico Collins-esque. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but he just put it all together last year. Redshirted back in 2021, and now, as a redshirt junior. Oh, actually, no. This is a senior, right? Let me rephrase that. So he's in the draft. Scratch all of them. Forget what I said. He's in this draft class. For some reason, I miscounted the number of years. I think it's COVID years got me or something. But this is a big time prospect, and I think people know the name because of Trey. And if you've watched, enough FCS football, I mean, obviously NDSU, North Dakota State University, is a powerhouse program. They are, people compare them to Alabama or things like that. I don't know if that's quite apt, but it's a terrific program. They're going to be an absolute, dangerous program. And I think mostly, maybe most importantly, when you look at, he's got, like I said, obviously the bloodlines thing, but the body type, that you look for, big, strong, fast. I'll be shocked, like I said, if he has the kind of, I think anything short of injury, he gets drafted, even if he has a down year. But if he has a big year, once again, I could see him going in the first 3 rounds. Okay, I'm going to wrap up real quick here. I promise. Quick-ish. There are a few other players that I think have a definite chance. I want to just mention Ronald Vick Jr. He's not in the draft class most likely, but he's a special player. Just watch out for that. Remember the name, as they say. DJ Black is another fun player to sort of see what happens with him. He was caught up in the situation at Limestone with them shutting down the program. And, just sort of RIP to the terrific program, because Limestone's put some guys in the league in the past. But that made DJ Black suddenly available, obviously. And he might have become available, even without Limestone shutting down his program. But he is a legit NFL prospect. And, he transfers to UCF. And I'm expecting big things. I'm expecting very big things from him. I think he's going to be, worst case scenario, wide receiver 2. But going back to last year, his junior year at Limestone, 11 games, 41 receptions, 939 yards, 22.9 yards per catch. That is the definition of a deep threat, people. And once again, I think DJ Black is another guy that has, enough physical talent. Like, that's the first thing you start with, is enough pure physical talent that even if he doesn't have the kind of monster year that I'm frankly hoping he has, and I'm sure he is as well, I think just his physical ability could at least get him, worst case scenario, he's in a camp, right? I think worst case scenario, he's in a camp, even if he has kind of a down year. But if he has the year I'm expecting, and once again, body type, right? When guys are coming from, other levels, this guy's over 6'2", pushing 6'3". He's going to play somewhere in the 193-pound range, and he could carry over 200 pounds without losing anything. If he runs in the low 4.5s, he's getting drafted if he has a halfway decent year. If he runs faster and has a big year, like I said, he could push his way into that round 4-5 area. But if you haven't seen him, maybe you don't watch Limestone, I get it, but watch him at UCF. This is a NFL-type receiver. He has the size, he has the speed, he has production, but most importantly, he's in a situation where I think he pushes away, like I said, worst case, into the wide receiver 2. I have some more because it's a deep wide receiver class, but I'm going to break it up into sections. But this is, once again, Bill Carroll, team for Zinni 62 Media, and I'm going to take you through my underrated, or as I call it, all underappreciated wide receiver group.